Engines leaned hard into the Sunday air, a chorus of bright exhaust and borrowed bravado. Nia Carter stepped from the curb with a paper sack hugged to her side, a sunflower stem peeking over the top like a little flag of peace. The crosswalk sign burned white. She moved with the easy rhythm of a local who has used this market street her whole life. Then a mirror clipped her elbow, the bag burst, and red apples scattered across the stripes like startled birds. The rider didn't look back. Laughter snapped from a small knot of onlookers, quick and thoughtless, the kind that tries to turn someone's scare into a show. Nia landed on a knee, breath shocked out of her for a beat, eyes tracking the pack as they threaded the gaps. 50 yards ahead, the lead bike popped a wheelie on fresh paint. Tire skimming a slick the morning mist hadn't finished drying. The rear slid, jabbed, and let go. The bike skated sideways. Two behind tried to correct and tangled with his mistake. Plastic scraped, boots chattered on asphalt, and 3 riders slid into a humbling sprawl that left the street full of sparks and stillness. The laughter died at once, cut off as if someone had covered a speaker. People drifted forward, phones first, thoughts second. Nia was already up, moving with the steady, practiced speed of someone who knows which seconds matter. She knelt beside the first rider and set her voice to calm. "Don't take off your helmet. Stay still. Breathe with me." She pinched his glove to test feeling, checked his belly for tenderness, watched his chest count a rhythm she could build on. Another rider tried to stand and folded with a shout. Pride louder than pain, until pain reminded him of the rules. Nia slid her scarf under a scraped forearm to lift pressure, asked a teenager to block traffic with hazard lights, and pointed a bystander to collect the scattered apples so no one else would slip. A shop owner ran out, camera footage queued up on his phone. Sirens woke at the far end of the block and grew. The riders looked at Nia, finally seeing the person they had. Knocked down as the one holding the whole scene together without a single ounce of anger in her hands. Calm was not an accident. It was a discipline Nia kept like a toolkit. ER nurse by trade, former combat medic by history, big sister by instinct, she counted time by breaths instead of minutes. She kept a postcard in her locker with 3 lines that had carried her through 2 many long nights. Respect is the first safety rule. Slow is smooth. Smooth is safe. If you can help, you must. She grew up 6 blocks from this market, daughter of a flower seller who taught her the names of each stem by scent before she could read the signs. Years ago, a late night stunt crowd had blown through the boulevard and left a neighbor's son in the trauma bay under Nia's hands. She had worked the case and then worked the council meeting, asking for crosswalk beacons, textured paint, and a plan that gave riders a legal place to burn off speed. The city built a low-cost practice track 2 towns over, funded partly by a quiet donor and partly by bake sales and patience. Nia staffed the first aid tent at its opening and high-fived kids who traded alley recklessness for helmeted laps. She didn't hate bikes. She hated moments when control turned into theater. On her way to shifts, she watched street videos on her phone with the sound off, studying hands and posture the way other people watched weather. She practiced knotting a scarf into a sling until her fingers could do it blind. She kept nitrile gloves folded inside her, wallet and a tourniquet, coiled around a water bottle like a stripe. She moved through life the way she wished traffic would. Eyes up, ego low, attention wide. So when the mirror kissed her elbow and the apples spilled like marbles, she did not waste a second on rage. Rage never picked anyone up. She took inventory of herself, knee sore, skin scraped, everything working, and chose to run toward the crash because someone should, and because helping first would keep blaming from being the only story. By the time the paramedics arrived, the lane was coned by borrowed cars. Helmets were still on heads. Bleeding was managed with clean pressure, and 3 riders were breathing to her count. 4 in, 6 out. Like students meeting a teacher they didn't know they needed until the test began. Heat, blame, and the twist. Police eased in behind the ambulance, steady and methodical. Hands open, words measured. Adrenaline pushed the ringleader's voice ahead of his judgment, and he pointed at Nia with a shaking glove. She stepped out. She made a swerve. The shop owner lifted his phone without heat and pressed play. The officers watched the short loop. Walk signal bright. Nia fully inside the lines. Bikes swarming a moving lane, a mirror kissing her bag, a showy wheelie landing on a slick stripe, a spill that didn't care about swagger. Facts settled like dust. No more arguing. Priya, the EMS lead, knelt with a grin that folded the years since her internship into a single warm second. Carter, I should have known. An officer glanced up, curious. Priya nodded toward Nia for the room to hear. She trains half our new hires. Street medicine, bystander coaching, the works. The ringleader's breath stuttered. He recognized Nia's face from a safety video he had scrolled past without listening. The crowd felt the air shift from blame to respect without any speeches to push it. The officers worked down a short list. Citations for reckless operation, insurance exchange, witness statements. The shopkeeper offered the footage for the report, and the drivers trapped at the light rolled down windows to ask if they could help. Nia declined a ride to urgent care, with a smile that said she'd be fine and a walk that told the truth. Knee stiff, nothing broken. A younger rider, helmet off now, freckles showing through road dust, whispered the kind of apology that costs real pride. I laughed when you fell, he said. Nia nodded once, not as acceptance, but as a waypoint. Make the next thing you do better, she said. The ringleader stared at his knee brace as Priya said it, then looked up with eyes that finally understood momentum ends but consequences linger. What do you want me to do? He asked. Nia answered without drama. Show up next week. There's a diversion class instead of court for first offenders. I'm teaching, bring your friends. Bring your cameras. Learn to film care. Justice that teaches, not just punishes. The gym smelled like varnish and sneakers. Folding chairs lined the quay. A projector glowed against the cinder block. The riders sat together, quieter than engines ever made them, glancing at the door as if escape might still be an option. Nia opened with the market footage and then froze it on one still frame. Eyes pointed at each other's cameras, not at the lane or the light. Everything starts here, she said. Attention is a choice. She mapped physics with plain words, drew lines between ego and braking distance. Let silence hold the space where excuses usually rush. Then she passed out gloves and taught helmet removal the right way. One person stabilizing, one lifting. No twisting, no heroics. Freckles practiced on the foam dummy and whispered, I didn't know. Now you do, she said. And smiled because learning is a kind of medicine, too. The ringleader waited until after the sign-in sheet made its rounds to stand up. He turned his phone toward himself, live feed streaming, and said the sentence that turned hecklers into helpers. We're taking this to the track next time. If you want a crowd, come cheer there. Comments flew across his screen. Some snide, many grateful. The shop owner from the market arrived with a tray of lemon bars and the paper bag Nia had dropped, now full of fresh apples he insisted on replacing. The officers from that morning stood by the door, listening like students instead of enforcers. Priya taped a flyer to the wall for a free helmet fit clinic and a kid's bike rodeo. 3 lines closed the night and hung in the air like clean banners. Respect is the first safety rule. Speed fades. Consequences don't. Be the person who turns a near miss into a better map. A week later, the market thrummed with the same guitar busker and the same kettle corn. But the crosswalk wore a new textured coat that made tires hum instead of slide. Riders in fresh scuffed vests stopped to help chalk routes for the kids' course. Nia bought sunflowers from the stand where her mother once counted, stems and tucked one behind her ear. The ringleader lifted an orange cone with a careful hand and caught her eye. He didn't wave for attention or film himself being good. He simply held the cone for a child to pass and said, to nobody in particular, "Smooth is safe." The crowd moved like a river. Not a storm, and everyone went home.